Our book, Ben and Me, we are on chapter 7 called The Lightning Rod. After the electrical exhibition, most of Ben's acquaintances regarded him rather suspiciously. The governor even crossed to the opposite side of the street when he approached. Ben never noticed, though, being wrapped up in more experiments. I observed that he was developing an unseemly interest in lightning. Every time a house or a tree was struck, Ben was the first to reach the scene, questioning all who had been present at how the bolt had looked, smelled, or sounded, what sensations they had felt, and so on. Then he would go on into a brown study that lasted for hours, occasionally murmuring, "I wonder, I wonder." "Wonder what?" I asked finally. It was getting on my nerves. "Why, if lightning and electricity are the same thing." "To me they are," I said promptly. They're both annoying, horrid, dangerous nuisances that should be let strictly alone." "There you go again, Amos. No vision, no vision." "All right," I said, "all right. And if they are the same, and if you do prove it, then what?" "Why then," he said, "why then, I shall go down in history as he who tamed the lightning, who, if you have any notion of making a house pet of this lightning," I said, "you can go down in history as anything you please. For myself, I will go down into the cellar and stay there." 2 days later, I was waked from an afternoon nap by a terrible clatter overhead. Investigation disclosed Ben seated on the roof, busily hammering. He had fastened a whole collection of sharp-pointed iron rods to various parts of the housetop. There were 2 or 3 on each chimney and a series of them along the ridgepole. These were all connected by a tangle of wires and rods that ran down through the trapdoor into our room. "You see, Amos," he explained, while connecting wires to various instruments, "the trouble with most people is that they lack the calm observation of the trained scientific mind. Time after time, I have rushed to the scene of one of these lightning strokes, and all I could gather from the bystanders was that they were terrible skeered. Now, by collecting a small amount of this so-called lightning, with the rods which you saw on the roof and conducting it through wires to these jars and instruments, we shall be able to investigate its nature and behavior with true scientific calm. We shall be able to settle forever the question which is puzzling all of our minds, the question of whether or not lightning is electrical." "It never has puzzled my mind," I said. "Left to myself, I wouldn't give it a thought." "Moreover," I continued, "you might as well leave out that 'we.' I resigned from these experiments a long time ago. Any observing that I do will be done in the cellar. And as the sky has clouded up rather threateningly, I think I will retire there at once." The storm must have been closer than I thought, for I had barely started for the door when there occurred a most horrifying flash of lightning, followed by a thunderclap that shook the house to its foundations. The shock threw me bodily into a large glass jar, luckily empty. This was really fortunate, for here I was able to observe all that went on, while the glass seemed to protect me from the lightning flashes that now followed one another in rapid succession. At the first flash, the liquid in Ben's jars disappeared in a great burst of yellowish steam, and the instruments bounced about wildly. As flash followed flash, blue sparks ran up and down the wires. The brass andirons glowed as though dipped in phosphorus, and streaks of fire shot from the candlesticks on the mantelpiece. The crashing thunder was, of course, continuous, jarring every loose object in the house. There was now no doubt in my mind that lightning was electricity in its most horrid and dangerous form. In the confusion, I had forgotten Ben. Now, looking about, I was astonished to find him nowhere in sight. At this moment, a large ball of blue fire emerged from the Franklin stove, rolled across the floor, and descended the stairs, crackling and giving off a strange odor of sulfur. The unusually violent crash that followed brought a faint moan from the bed. There I discovered Ben, or rather his feet, for they were the only part of him visible. The rest was covered by the bedclothes, while two pillows completely muffled his head. At first I was alarmed, but as each succeeding crash brought an echoing moan and a violent trembling of the feet, I realized that all that had befallen him was a severe case of fright. Safe in my glass jar, I thoroughly enjoyed the spectacle of Ben's terror as long as the storm raged. As the last rumblings died away, he cautiously raised the pillows and peered forth. He was a most amusing sight. "And now, Dr. Franklin," I jeered as he sheepishly rose from the bed, "would you lend a bit of your calm, scientific study to getting me out of this jar? And by the way, what did you observe as to the true nature of lightning?" "Do you know, Amos," he explained, "that first flash knocked off my glasses, and of course I see very poorly without them." "So you replaced them with a couple of pillows?" I said. He never answered me, just started picking up the remains of his apparatus. When sometime later a scientific writer called them lightning rods, naming Ben as their inventor, he refused to take the credit. This startling display of modesty surprised many people, but not me. I knew all about it.